My wife was playing with some app and uploaded a photo of me to see what would happen. Apostle of body positivity. Let the record show. The Daniel Natal Show. One sketchy assertion I've noticed lately in the media is their habit of claiming that moral culpability depends upon your ethnicity. Certain groups, claim the media, have no agency. Case in point, when a black nationalist, Darrell Edward Brooks, made a political statement by purposely plowing his car into old women and children practicing for a Christmas parade, the media raced to blame the car for the vicious attack. CNN wrote, Waukesha will hold a moment of silence today, marking 1 week since a car drove through a city Christmas parade, killing 6 people and injuring scores of others. A car drove through a city Christmas parade? It just drove itself? Note this same technique when Terry Crews brings up the subject of inner-city violence and CNN host Don Lemon pivots to blaming inanimate objects.
And you're talking about even with the Atlanta child murders, there were 28 kids who died in 2 years. You're talking about a month, and you have 9 black kids, and the Black Lives Matter movement has said nothing about this.
What does that have to do with equality, though, Terry? I don't understand what that has to do with equality, because listen, there's crime. There are people in those communities those people aren't just being nonchalant about gun violence. I lived in Chicago. There are many people who are working in those communities to try to get rid of the gun violence.
Gun violence? Stop that. Terry Crews didn't mention gun violence. He mentioned African American violence. Don Lemon was very quick in switching moral agency from culpable human beings to inanimate objects. Aristotle in Nicomachean Ethics, Book 3, talks about the subject of moral culpability and how it's assessed. He talks about how people are responsible for their actions. Responsibility only diminishes, however, if some outside agent coerces you. Say, for instance, if a dictator has kidnapped your family and is threatening them unless you carry out a murder for him. In such a case, there would be diminished responsibility because you're no longer the actor in the crime, but the tool. Diminished capacity can also be explained in terms of drunkenness or insanity. This is when a person isn't in control of their senses. But here's the thing. Charlatans abuse the concept of diminished capacity by blaming outside forces when in reality, the crime emanated from them. The devil made me do it defense. Aristotle writes, it is absurd to blame external things instead of blaming ourselves for falling an easy prey to their attractions, or to take the credit of our noble deeds to ourselves while putting the blame for our disgraceful ones upon the temptations of pleasure. It appears, therefore, that an act is compulsory when its origin is from outside, the person compelled contributing nothing to it. Let's repeat the first sentence. It is absurd to blame external things instead of blaming ourselves. The book this is from is Aristotle's Ethics. What the mass media is doing is textbook unethical. The worst part of all is that it demonstrates the worst excesses of the soft bigotry of lowered expectations from the leftist elite to racial minorities, whose ethnicity they treat as some sort of genetic handicap. What they're basically saying is that people of African ancestry have no agency. They're not responsible for their actions. Even worse, that a toaster has more moral agency than they do, or a rock. In this assertion, they're basically saying that black people aren't quite human. They don't meet the threshold of responsibility that Homo sapiens does. This reduces them to the level of an appliance, a thing. This was the thinking of the slaver, the moral reprobates who saw Africans as tools and nothing more, extensions of the master's will. What makes this all the more phenomenal on the part of the media is the fact that they attribute superhuman moral culpability to Europeans, who they blame for global warming and gravity and the existence of hydrogen atoms. To whites are attributed superhuman powers, and as Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. So whites are told by the media that they're so responsible that they should take the blame for things that they didn't even do. This toxic assertion reveals the dark underbelly of leftist ideology, because what it reveals is that they see whites as godlike and blacks as something less so. It isn't conservatives who are demanding a sliding scale of moral accountability and racial hierarchies. Conservatives rightly see all groups as bearing the same ethical responsibility. Only the left sees certain groups as things, like in The Silence of the Lambs, when the serial killer keeps dehumanizing his victims by calling them it instead of she.
It rubs the lotion on its skin. It does this whenever it's told.
Mister, my family will pay cash. Whatever ransom you're asking for, they'll pay it.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
But then again, the left always had a penchant for creative pronoun usages. Astrologers tell us that the American Revolution 2.0 might be in the offing, given the fact that Pluto is returning for the first time in 247 years. The last time it was here was in 1776. That boded well for America then, so maybe positive things are on the cusp of happening again. That major transit reminds us of other major transits, like Trump transiting the executive branch. The country went into Mercury retrograde then, but now, as with Pluto, Trump is returning in our new bookazine, Trump World. Relive and relove the MAGA era. Buy your copy as a Christmas gift for some patriot that you know today at thenewamerican.com.